I started wholesaling as a complete beginner at the age of 16 on January 1st of this year. And in my first 30 days of wholesaling, I got 6 properties under contract for over $100,000 in contracted assignment fees. And then fast forward just 15 days later into the month of February, I got another 4 properties under contract for over $150,000 in contracted assignment fees. And in this video, I'm about to share my entire experience going from absolute zero as a 16-year-old to consistently signing contracts week over week worth anywhere from $10,000 to over $100,000 with deals that are actually good and that are gonna get to the closing table. And the only reason I want to make this video is because after wholesaling for 30 days, I realized that it's way easier than most people make it out to be. And so I promise if you watch this entire video until the end, you'll not only be able to learn from all the mistakes I made when getting started, but you'll also be able to see all the biggest key takeaways and insights and exactly how I've been able to achieve such a massive amount of success in such a short period of time at such a young age. And so just to give you context before we jump into anything, for about the past 2 years before I started this business, I was running my own social media marketing agency, which some of you may know me from, and I was able to scale that up to where at its peak, I did $77,000 in 1 month with very high profit margins. And so that business was kind of what got me off the ground, got me into the whole space. And last year I grossed, I think about 600 or 700 grand in revenue through that business and made a few hundred grand in profit. So that's what not only gave me, more importantly, the capital to be able to start this business and fuel it, to be able to invest in myself, but it also was able to teach me all the skills that I now have and that I was able to bring to this business for not only being really good at marketing, but more importantly, being very good at sales and communication. And so towards the end of last year, right, probably in about December, I was working on kind of shutting that marketing agency down. I didn't want to run the business anymore. And I actively knew at the time, multiple friends of mine who actually ran marketing agencies for other wholesalers and real estate investors. And I would see all the time, they would like post these case studies and they had all these clients that would make all this money. I mean, tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they simply weren't even that good at marketing or at sales. They were just in a really good opportunity vehicle. And so that kind of prompted me to think, well, these people are making all this money and they're not even that good at marketing or sales. If I am good at marketing and I am good at sales, how good can I do, right? And so that's what prompted me to actually jump into this industry of wholesaling and how I got started. And so for me, immediately the first thing that I did when starting, which is one of the biggest reasons I was able to achieve success so fast, is rather than going down this whole rabbit hole of, oh, I'm going to start a business with $0 and I'm going to bootstrap it and save all this money, I was the exact opposite. I said, I'm going to put as much money into this business as possible. I'm going to pay as many people who know what they're doing as I can to learn from them, to buy their courses, to get their coaching. And I'm also going to spend money on inbound marketing, because inbound marketing is by far the best way to get motivated sellers coming to you and to get good properties under contract, and is way easier than outbound. And so what I did, this is probably, like I said, about 2-3 weeks before the beginning of 2025, I started spending money on people like Nick Perry's course and Rich Wonders and all these other big names, started buying their courses and trying to pay them for coaching and just absorb as much knowledge as I could. And so I spent probably about 2 to 3 weeks literally just hunched up in my room, spending hours and hours a day, like just scavenging the internet and just watching all these videos, consuming all these trainings of basically what is wholesaling, what is a sales process like, and just learning as much as I could and being an information sponge. Because like I said, I had to make up for what I didn't know. And rather than trying to make up for it with time, I made up for it with money. And so whilst doing all this, I decided that based on the skills that I had for my marketing agency, which is I was running Facebook ads, not just for my business, but also for all my clients, I decided that I was going to run Facebook ads for me to get motivated sellers, which I think is a very good channel for anybody starting out who wants to get their feet wet, get a lot of volume in, get a lot of reps in, talk to a lot of motivated sellers, which is very important when you're starting out, but also to be able to do it at a very cheap price. Like I was doing it nationwide with a $20 cost per lead. And so I paid someone who was referred to me by a friend of mine about $5,000 for them to run my Facebook ads for 2 months, because even though I could do it on my own, like I was saying, I don't want to spend the time to do it, but I also don't want to spend the time and the money to learn how to do it. I just paid him because he had done it for so many other people and I knew he knew it was proven to work. So I paid him $5,000 to set up the Facebook ads for me for 2 months. They set him up, they started running him, and on January 6th, my ads officially went live. And for the first few days of them going live, we were only spending about $50 a day. Eventually we upped that to $100 a day, but I was spending probably about $50 per day on the marketing and leads, which was enough for those first few days. I was averaging about 2 to 3 leads a day. And to be honest with you, like these first few days was just an absolute shit show. As expected, I just didn't know what was going on. Even though I had all this training, even though I was going through all these courses and it sounded good in practice, when you first get on the phone, like just naturally you're going to suck and it's going to feel super weird, and I didn't know what was going on. But the biggest thing was, and the thing that really allowed me to succeed very fast, was I took action immediately and I just pushed through it, because you didn't have to do it no matter what. And I realized that very quickly. So I was like, okay, I'm going to get as much reps in as possible and speak to as many leads as possible when I could. And so every day I got 2 to 3 new hot motivated inbound sellers coming in. I'm speaking to them, I'm running through my sales process. And even though, like I said, for those first few days, I wasn't really getting that much traction or having that much success, I was learning. Every single conversation I had, I was just constantly learning. I should say this is how it should sound, or this is what this term means, this is what that means. And I was just learning at such a fast rate because I had a very short feedback loop, right? Every day I would learn something, I would implement it immediately because I always had leads coming in and I was always spending money. So it was forcing me to be accountable. And so just doing that every day, like I said, basically at this time, for context, I'm just spending all my time at my desk right here. And all I was doing was I was either watching training, and then I was watching training until a lead came in. And the second a lead came in, boom, I was on it, immediate speed to lead, which is also such a massive thing because with inbound marketing especially, there's no such thing as an exclusive lead. So if this person fills out your form, they're filling out 5 or 10 other forms if they're actually motivated. And so that was also a really big thing because I had such a good speed to lead that they couldn't even fill out other people's forms. And that's why a lot of people fail with inbound marketing, because they'll spend this money, look at these leads, and then they'll call them 20, 30 minutes later. And even though it seems like that's not that long, time kills deals, especially in wholesaling, because it's such a competitive industry. And so I was always on standby, ready to phone leads the second that they came in. And if I wasn't calling leads and talking to sellers, I was just training to get better at when I was talking to them. And so on January 11th, like I said, Saturday morning, about 9 a.m., just sitting at my desk, just working, watching some trainings. And then a lead comes in. It's a woman in South Carolina, very nice woman. And I immediately call her up. And basically for about the next 2 hours, I take her through the sales process that I obviously been learning and been refining for my first few calls. And this was the first ever call that I had where the sales process actually clicked, where I actually understood, okay, in a successful sales process, in a textbook sales process, this is what it sounds like. This is how I negotiate them deeper. Because this is the first time I had successfully negotiated someone's asking price. I got her down from 315 grand all the way down to 275 grand. And just for some reason, everything clicked. It made sense on how to comp the property. It made sense on how to sell them, to talk to them, to negotiate them. And it just all clicked in that moment. And literally just a short 2 hours later, after some negotiating and back and forth and multiple calls, I got my first ever contract signed for a novation deal that's going to be a projected $20,000 to $30,000 assignment fee. And after this, I just absolutely took off because now I had finally got my proof of concept. Everything clicked. The comping finally made sense. The sales made sense. The negotiation made sense. Everything started to make sense. And I was like, okay, I have it down packed to a process. And more importantly, I had that conviction and that confidence in myself. So there's no longer that lingering thought of, oh, what if it doesn't work? Or is this real? Is this not real? I was like, okay, this is real. This is legit. And I'm good at selling to these people. And this is just when things took off. Day in and day out, from there to basically the end of my first 30 days wholesaling into the end of January, it was just running the same playbook every single day. I'm at my desk, I'm working, I'm watching training videos, I'm studying courses, I'm learning from people, I'm attending coaching calls. And then when I'm not doing that, it's because I just had a new lead that came in. The second a new lead comes in, boom, I immediately call them up. I run them through my sales process. After every call, I'm reviewing, I'm taking notes, I'm studying, and I have a very short feedback loop. And at this time, I'm spending basically $100 a day, and I have a $20 cost per lead. So I'm getting 5 new leads a day. And then obviously with the contracts that I was getting, I was now also starting to learn, okay, how do I dispo them? How do I dispo innovation? How do I dispo a cash deal? And so just every day in and day out, ever since I got that first property in our contract, it just went up from there. And then I finally had a repeatable, proven process, and I had a consistent inbound lead flow of motivated leads. That's how I was really able to just take off. And then fast forward, obviously, it's like I said, where I am now. I'm 15 days into the month of February. I've already done 5 properties in our contract this month for over 150 grand in contracted assignment fees. And I ended off the first month with a total of 6 properties under contract, but 3 of which we did end up canceling that ended up falling through, full transparency, which I'm going to talk about here shortly. And so the biggest things that I learned after trying wholesaling for 30 days was, first off, that when you're starting out, the only thing that you should be focused on is how do I get new contracts and how do I talk to more motivated sellers. A lot of people, especially people that are starting out, the reason that they fail is obviously for a lot of different reasons, but a big one is because they procrastinate. They're trying to worry about building a buyer's list and networking and how do I dispo deals and doing all that, but they don't even have deals. The only thing that you should be doing if you are brand new and you don't have contracts yet is how do I get more contracts? And that's literally like my first 30 days wholesaling. The only thing that I spent all my time doing was I'm prospecting, I'm trying to get new business. How do I get business? How do I get contracts? And how do I talk to more motivated sellers? And that brings me to my second point, which is that when starting out, if you genuinely try to start this business with $0 or any business for that fact with $0, I think personally that is an extremely dumb decision to make. Because yes, you can technically start for $0. You can cold call and list scrape and and manually do all this. You can, but who's to say that you should? It's extremely inefficient. And at the end of the day, you either pay with your time or you pay with your money. And for me, the reason I was able to collapse time and get results so fast was because I paid with my money. I paid like 5-10 grand just even start things up to get the coaching, the resources, the templates that I needed. And then I was consistently spending 3 grand a month to get leads coming in. But that was also why I was successful, because I was actually putting my money where my mouth was, and I was just shortcutting the process because I realized there are people that have already gone through the trouble, that have already spent months and years learning this information. Rather than spending my time doing that, I'm going to learn from their mistakes and just pay them instead. And that was how I was able to achieve success so fast. Now, obviously, if you don't have money when starting out, which I get it, my first business that I started, my SMMA, right, my agency, I was like 14 at the time I started that. Like, I literally had $0. I couldn't get a job. But like, if you're starting a business, I would recommend you start it with money saved up and you actually spend that, in this case, on coaching and also on leads. And if you don't have money, probably just work a job to save it up to then be able to start, because that's how you can really get results very quickly. And it's the most efficient use of your time, energy, money, and resources, right? And the third biggest thing is, and this kind of brings back to in the first month, I got 6 contracts, but 3 of which them fell out, to be fully transparent. The third thing is I'm doing nationwide. When you're doing nationwide, and I mean, even just in general, but especially when you're doing nationwide, you need to be very conservative when you comp your deals and when you make offers, specifically for those deals in small towns or in rural areas. Because if you end up over comping or you're not conservative enough, like the rural deals are already hard enough to move. And so you really have to factor that into the price, especially for rural deals. You need to get them locked up so deep to where it's like, this is so deep. It is such a no-brainer that even though the area is rural, I'm not going to have a problem moving it. And the problem was, like, out of those 3 contracts that I got, like one of them I locked up for 20 grand, but I didn't even realize that the area was so remote and also the property was in such bad condition. The property wasn't worth more than like 5 grand. And another one of them that I locked up was also a similar situation where I have it locked up for 45, but realistically, like, it's not worth more than probably like 35 or 40 grand. And I just locked these up too high. And I thought I was being conservative at the time, but really, and they said, this just comes with experience. This is something you're just gonna have to, like, you have to learn this by doing it. And this is something that I learned after speaking to, like, now it's working like over 100, 200 motivated sellers and all that. But like, what you think is a low number is usually not actually a low number. And especially with rural areas, like, what you think is a low number, cut that in half and then you're good. Like, you have to be extremely conservative and you have to really learn how to build up a tolerance and a meter of like, okay, this actually is low versus this isn't low. And that's kind of the whole thing, is like locking up deals with the context of dispo in mind, and like, how am I gonna get this to the closing table, and just being extremely conservative on your numbers and being okay with saying no to deals. And like I said, I agree with that, and I knew that from the start. Just when starting out, I didn't really understand how to comp properly, so I thought I had a good deal, but I didn't. But really learning how to get good at comping, not like becoming a comping expert, but just learning and understanding like when it's time to be very conservative and when it's not time to be very conservative, and like actually building a meter for, okay, this is low enough versus this isn't low enough. And so really kind of all of that summed up. And then obviously, I mean, just the biggest thing, like, to just super straight, you have to be good at sales in this business. Like, you have to be good at communication if you want to succeed. Not to like to my own horn, and you can see that I've posted like a live sales call on my YouTube. Like, I'm very good at sales and like communication. I've worked with some of the top people in the industry and the high ticket industry. And so like, just naturally, the reason I was able to succeed super fast is because I already had that skill set coming into it. That's just like how I was able to succeed really well, because that is most of this business, is it's getting very good at sales. And so that's probably really the biggest thing, is not just like taking a lot of action and investing in yourself, but it's also doing that and focusing on how do I get really good at sales, because the people that are the best in sales, those are the people in this industry that are winning and that are making the most amount of money. And that was how, like I said, in my first 45 days wholesaling, I've gotten 8 properties under contract. My first 30 days, I got 6. And so, well, actually technically more, just 10, but that's how I was really able to do it. And like I said, taking those learning lessons in February, like I said, 15 days into February, I not only have 5 properties that I've gotten under contract for not only 150 grand plus in contracted assignment fees, but these are actually like good deals. Like, these are deals that like I'm confident are going to get to the closing table, that I was very deep on the numbers, I was very conservative. One of them I'm going to make over 100 grand on if it gets to the closing table. And so that's really the biggest thing. And that's how I was able to take these lessons and compound it to where now I'm going to be getting, like I said, twice the results, 3 times the results. And I'm just learning very fast. And I'm learning from my mistakes, and I'm failing fast, and I'm failing forward. That is how you achieve success fast. And that was especially how I did it with wholesaling, is just learning from my mistakes and moving forward. And like I said, just focusing on getting deeply discounted deals, because that is what this business is all about. And now, like I said, in my second month, we've already gotten those 5 good contracts. We're halfway into the month. Obviously, we're going to end the month off at obviously a lot more than just 5 really good contracts. And my first deal is actually set to close before the end of this month. It's going to be for a $5,200 assignment fee. But I mean, literally, the property that I have the purchase price at is like $800. It's like some shitty mobile home in like the middle of rural New York. And so that's my first deal. It's actually set to officially close this month. And I mean, realistically, based on the results that I've been getting, with how much I've learned, how did I've gotten, and like I said, how I plan to continue things in the future, I'm probably projected to be making about 100 grand a month from this business within the next 2 to 3 months, because of the skill set that I've built up. And I'm going to do everything it takes to get there and scale it up. And I'm really happy I got into this. That's kind of how my first 30 days went, and just kind of overall some of the learning lessons, takeaways that I have after trying wholesaling for 30 days. I plan to keep doing this for definitely the foreseeable future for a good amount of times. I think there's a lot of money in this, and I hope this video was valuable or insightful to anybody who maybe is recently just started wholesaling, is thinking about starting, or maybe people that are even more experienced, just seeing kind of what it's like to just get started, like I said, at such a young age, and kind of have been able to do all this. So if this video was insightful, subscribe, like, comment, do all that YouTube shit. Also look at me on social media, just search my name, Oliver Kahn, and I'm going to be posting a lot more wholesaling content on this YouTube channel, like live seller calls, and just giving a lot of value to you guys, specifically on the sales side, because that's where I'm good with. And so I just hope this video is valuable. And like I said, that is my experience trying wholesaling for 30 days as a 16-year-old. Let's go.